When I was a senior in high school, which was back in 2017, we had to go to the school's library to get our senior portraits done for the yearbook before we graduated. And while I was there, I started talking to one of the photographers there. And I asked him, as any intermediate photographer would ask somebody, I said, "Hey, do you have any tips for me to get better at photography?" And the first thing he said to me was, "Get better at lighting," or he said, "Learn lighting." I started my YouTube channel back in 2019, and by July of 2020, I had just moved into my first apartment. It was a one bed, one bath, it had a kitchen, and it had a living room. And by that time, I was living in that apartment for about a year. So January of 2021 rolls around, and I decided that I wanted to create a dedicated space to film my YouTube videos in. So I decided that I wanted to go to Walmart and I wanted to get a setup to film my YouTube videos in. I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but I had a slight idea of what I needed, okay? So I went to Walmart and I ended up getting a really shitty white backdrop. It was just like this metal structure, this metal frame with this white backdrop that you could set up in your living room. And then I ended up buying two ring lights, and I think one of the ring lights came with a lav mic, or I might have bought the lav mic separately. But I bought the white backdrop and I bought the two ring lights, and I was so excited for this new setup that I was about to have to film my YouTube videos in. I've briefly mentioned this setup in a couple of my past videos, but if you guys have been watching my channel for a while now, you might actually remember this setup. And I can tell you right now, it was a pretty shitty setup, I'm not gonna lie. But at the time, I was really motivated, and at the time, my whole idea was I wanted to make this new skit on my channel called Crazy Photography Stories, where I would sit down in front of the camera just like this, and I'll explain crazy photography stories that I've had taking photos and my experiences behind them. And I thought it was pretty cool, and then I actually realized one day of how shitty this setup actually was. So I lived in that apartment for about 3 years until I actually outgrew that apartment and I moved into this one that I am in now. I've been in this apartment since June of 2023, so I've been in this place for a couple years now, and I can say this apartment is a lot better. And this is actually where the plot of this video actually begins, because this space right here is where actually everything started to grow, and I started to really gain a lot of confidence in my studio and to be able to have a space where I can create my YouTube videos and edit my photos and have a real creative space to do whatever I want. I specifically wanted to move into a 2-bedroom apartment so I would have a separate room for an office space slash YouTube studio. And when I first got into this office in this room, it was completely empty other than a few desks I had. I had my computer set up right here, and then I had my printer and a couple other things. And it was a completely blank canvas for what I wanted to be. So after many tries, and I'm talking like I've rearranged this room a whole bunch of times, you guys, it did not start out like this. And I'm going to put up pictures throughout this video to show you guys my evolution of how this office started and how it is now. Because I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted, but I kind of did and I kind of didn't. So it was actually really confusing because I had two options in mind. The first option I actually had was I wanted like an RGB setup. I wanted like all the crazy colors, I wanted neon colors and all that fun stuff. So I actually hopped on Amazon and I ended up spending $1,000 on lights. So what I did is I bought a softbox, which is right in front of me. I bought a lantern light, which is right behind my softbox, and I bought that light right there, and then I bought two of these other lamps that are like, they have like a cylinder on the bottom, and it's like there's a tube that goes up, and it's like the whole tube lights up. It's really cool. I bought that in a 2-pack. So the first thing I did is that I just had one desk in my room was completely blank. So I had one desk in here, and so I put my desk against that back wall right there, and I had put the two lights right there, and I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be so cool, like, I'm gonna have like a purple room to film in. And immediately when I started filming, I was like, this looks like absolute shit. I said, I don't like this at all. I said, I need to change it up. So then I was doing a whole bunch of research on YouTube. I had all these Instagram stories saved from Instagram that had all these like different office setups and stuff. I was like, man, like I just need to create something that's my own. I need to make something that's my own that fits me. So I hopped on YouTube again, and I found these two YouTubers. I'm not going to mention their name, but I liked their setup. So one girl had this, like, what I have now, but it's kind of different, but she had, like, the warm tone setup, which I really enjoyed. So I was like, all right, I like that, because I really like the rustic vibe. I like the abandoned places. I like medieval stuff, the dark academia look. I really like that. So I wanted to do something like her, like with the warm tone lighting and stuff. And then I saw this other guy who had the L desk, okay? I really like the L desk because you could speak like this, and then you could have your computer set up over here like that. I was like, all right, So then stuff started to go together really, really slowly, but I had an idea in my head. So after I ordered the lights, I think a couple months later, or a couple weeks later, whatever, I ended up ordering these two things right here. I have one on this wall and I have one on that wall right there. They're two wall tapestries, okay? And I wanted like a medieval kind of like dark academia vibe for this office. And I was like, yo, that looks really sick. So I ordered those and I got it the biggest ones I could possibly order. I got the biggest ones because I wanted to cover the entire wall, and it looks absolutely incredible. So that was the start of my office space. The lighting and then the wall tapestries, it all came together, okay? And then after that, I still have my black desk. I was like, I said I don't like how this looks. So I ended up ordering this desk right here, which is an L desk. And this is where stuff really actually started to come. It became an office. It started to become a YouTube studio, which I really enjoyed, okay? And then I had this shelf out in my living room, right? I had all these decorations out in my living room, right? And I was like, yo, that would look really sick if I moved it into my office in my YouTube studio, because then people would think, like, they would see, like, my personality and stuff, like, the stuff I like. I love skulls. I love the dark academia look, like I said. And that would look really fit, like, the gothic vibe in my studio. So I took that out of my living room and I moved it in here, and then I put this light above that because the original idea was I wanted to light to shine down on my little knickknacks right here and light those up. But it actually turned into a nice light and kind of like a hair light for my studio while I was filming. I was like, oh my god, dude, this is turning out to be a really nice setup. Now, to make a long story short, in the beginning of this video, you guys saw me unboxing my second softbox light that I just bought the other day. And I bought that one because I have my one softbox right here that I bought originally when I told you guys I bought from Amazon. But I wanted a second one because over here, there's like a shadow, and I wanted to fill this shadow in with another light. So it might be an experiment or it might not. And it might be a waste of money or it might not be. But I wanted to invest in another softbox so I have more light to film in this room. So this whole office has been an absolute journey, and I just wanted to share my experience with you guys, because coming from a one-bedroom apartment where I had to buy a shitty backdrop at Walmart, had to tear my whole living room apart to actually set the damn thing up, and then tear it back down and put my whole living room back together, to outgrowing that apartment and moving into this apartment and having a two-bedroom apartment, to having my own office space in this apartment to design it however I want. It has been an absolute journey, and I have to say, it's been amazing, the journey I've been on designing this whole room. I knew what I wanted. I knew exactly what I wanted, but just wasn't the time. And like I say, there's a time and place for everything. And you have to start at level 1 in order to go up. You have to start at the bottom level in order to go up. There's no way around it. There's no cheats. You have to start at the base and climb the ladder till you get to the top, okay? That's how it works. And I was at level 1, but I already knew in my head what I wanted. So by the time I got to this apartment, I already knew how I wanted this apartment to be set up. And this is just the beginning. This office space has just begun, and it's only going to get better from here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got some inspiration from me designing my own office. Maybe you can get some inspiration to design your own office, your own YouTube studio, and just have fun with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.